All right. So we're Forterra, and I'm Scott Sanders. I'm the Chief Growth Officer here, and we build full-stack self-driving and autonomous systems for defense. Our platforms work in GPS-denied environments, comms-denied environments, with or without emitting sensors, and we're focused on doing this at scale. I think a lot of us that have spent time in the defense tech community have looked around at the science projects that we do in this space, and as former warfighters, we question, like, how do you actually get this to a meaningful amount of the population? And that's really the thing we all should be talking about. Because when you look at the neat and cool, innovative tech that's coming out in this space, if it's not getting to thousands or hundreds of thousands of warfighters, it's not gonna move the needle. And so what we focus on at Forterra is how do you do this with hundreds and thousands of robots? And that means you have to build hundreds and thousands of systems like very quickly, right? Like this problem is here today. And when you look at the, we can go to the next slide, whoever's controlling the slide thing in the back, sick. When you look at we rehearsed this 0%, by the way, much to the chagrin of my comms person who is currently having a panic attack. So if you look at the ground systems, right, like we have 3 ground militaries in the US DoD, right? The Marine Corps is bigger than the entire MOD of France and has a bigger budget. And it's the smallest, least well-funded service we have. Sorry for the former Marines in the room. We're just gonna make fun of ourselves the entire time. There's 380,000 ground tactical vehicles in the military. And when you go and look at the infantry battalions of today, they don't have the tech that the Air Force and the Space Force and everyone else have acquired, right? You guys have been leading the charge on small unmanned systems, large unmanned systems, space-based weapon systems. There's a bunch of incredible companies today talking about really neat, innovative tech on how to get at-scale software deployments. But when you have to build things in the physical world and they have to go to users, look at that infantry battalion. There's no technology down at the tactical level. And every time we offer them something that they've got to carry, you're just adding to their burden. So our mission is to take that away. How do we automate those vehicles and not just make them self-driving, but how do I do weapon sensor target pairing in an environment where everyone's using a different radio? How do I broker those comms across GPS-denied, comms-denied environments where you might have a fleeting connection? We're gonna test that fleeting connection in a moment because we're gonna do a live demo, and once again, we didn't rehearse this. So when you look across that space, there's an incredible amount of technology. Oh, there's a thing I have to push? That's cool. Which button is it? The big one? Okay. When you look across the space, what do you have to do? You have to deploy it safely. The DoD is not gonna let you deploy things that flip over, that crash into trees. Like, you have to give the warfighter something that's gonna work 99.99% of the time, or they're not gonna use it. For the former operators and warfighters in the room, the current green suiters, how often did you get a piece of tech that worked like one time, and the next time you used it, it didn't work, and you threw it back in the shipping container and said, I'm not dealing with this? So we look at this at Forterra really from the principle of it's gotta be safe, you've gotta be able to do it in mass, you have to do that quickly, and you've gotta make it reliable. And that means that a user has to be able to operate the thing. I have to be able to hand a TAC device, or we have our own UI like everybody else does, but I gotta be able to put it in front of someone and say, hey, you can figure this out in 15 minutes. So when you look at what does that entail, like how do you do this? You've got to use multimodal sensors. We use everything from 4D radar to LiDAR to visual-based sensors. Look, we still use LiDAR because guess what? If you were Army Test and Evaluation Command, that's what you feel comfortable using for a safety certification. Doesn't mean you can't turn it off because it does emit in the near-infrared spectrum, and that's something you're going to see. And so you've got to be able to then bring that into a platform because we're not going to get a whole new set of ground vehicles anytime soon. We're going to have things like the FMTVA2. We're going to have things like the PLS truck. And you got to integrate with legacy defense companies such as Oshkosh Defense and build these things in the factory line and be able to work with a very complicated manufacturing process to build very unique platforms such as the Deep Strike launcher that you see in front of us. And you got to be able to do that quickly. So for example, this went from first conversation to out at PCC 5 last week doing live missile shots in less than 6 months. That might seem like a lot of time, especially for the software-only guys who are like, hey, just git pull, git push, like do some software stuff, it goes out in the world. You've got to integrate this onto a large platform that is going to go actually put kinetic effects into play. So when we look at AutoDrive and how we built AutoDrive and TerraLink and Oasis on top of that, it's a way for us to get the stuff to the field faster, to work with the end user to provide a capability. And now that we're at 5 minutes left, we're going to cut over to watching people do this live. However that magic works in the back where we switch computers. There you go. All right, so we're just going to do around the world of what's happening at Forterra today. Again, we didn't rehearse this. We were told to do a live demo, so here we are. So we've got a couple platforms still out at PCC5. Yes, that event is still going on for those of you who are out there any one of the last 5 weeks. We've got a couple soldiers operating an SMET and a Plasan vehicle, an Atom, doing actually unclear what at this point, to be honest. We also have yard trucks from our commercial team running live with a customer. Again, not a demo. These trucks are doing real meaningful work in the commercial environment, moving shipping containers from point A to point B and ensuring supply chain resilience. Let's go to a little hop out to the test range out here in Idaho where it's a balmy 32 degrees and snowing. And we have a series of M-Razors and SMETs doing, looks like they're just running some hot laps on the obstacle course. So I can jump in from anything or from anywhere on nearly any network, command and control a variety of platforms, task them to go do missions, have them coordinate with each other, and do that across the entire United States today. These platforms that are out there are running a mix of secure cell, Starlink, Man-A radio hopping to a microwave shot that we have at our test site to enable that we can work on any comm system at any point in time and deliver those effects. The operators who are local to these platforms are tasking them with TAC, and I can go in and take over a platform, retask it from the jock here at Manifest, and then have them retake control and push a system out. And we think this is just the starting point. Like, you have to get things in the self-driving space to go from point A to point B, but the real mission is how do I get weapons and sensors and effects? And so we built a platform called Oasis. It's a non-proprietary, we'll give it to anyone in this room, allows you to build onto our systems, whether it's a weapon system, if you're from Allen Control Systems, or you're hidden level and you want to push out sensors and effectors further out. We'll enable you to integrate onto our stack. We don't lock you into a proprietary platform, and we think the value out of the warfighter is that that's what you actually need. It's an easier way to get standards distributed across the space and to project power and project effects. And again, really happy that I'm not at PCC5 for whatever that guy's doing at 7:30 in the morning. So with that, we're Forterra. This is what we do. We build at scale, and we're in production today.